As we look at the black mirror in our living room that used to contain WandaVision, we're left with a sense of emptiness, a longing, and the question, what was the point? The show was an examination of Wanda Maximoff undergoing the 5 stages of grief through the lens of American TV sitcoms. The first 3 episodes are presented almost entirely as the sitcoms that Wanda imagines into existence.
This guest is leaving your home.
This presentation serves a double purpose. It builds mysteries for fans to solve, like what's with the bees? Why the bees?
Not the bees! Ah!
But also, it presents the show entirely from Wanda's point of view. This is crucial for understanding how Wanda is feeling, but also the different eras of the sitcoms and their greater meaning. Wanda grew up in a war-torn country, and her only escape was through DVDs of American sitcoms. This was her view of an ideal Western life, as symbolized by the name of the town, Westview. This is even reflected in the calendar in the very first episode, which reads, "All the little girl wants is a color television." Just as Wanda used TV as a childhood escape, she escapes her present-day grief by creating a TV reality. This is because TV is a form of escapism. It's a pocket reality that sits in our homes that tells us lies to sell us things.
We lie like hell. We'll tell you that Kojak always gets the killer and that nobody ever gets cancer in Archie Bunker's house.
In this case, the TV pocket reality is trying to sell Wanda on a perfect TV life. This stage of grief is denial. Initially, she's unaware of her own illusion. She has no memory of the past, just as early sitcom housewives had no role outside the home.
Yes, we were married.
As a child, her favorite TV episode was It May Look Like a Walnut from The Dick Van Dyke Show. This episode was playing when her parents were killed, when her powers were first activated, and it created an early template for her TV life in Westview. In the episode, Rob and Laura are watching TV late at night, just as she and Vision initially end every episode by watching TV. They're watching a horror sci-fi movie about alien invaders who take over the minds of humans to prevent them from advancing into outer space. In the same way, Wanda has taken over the minds of the people of Westview to prevent them from living their own lives. Instead, they're forced to act out Wanda's sitcom fantasies.
I have a daughter. She's 8. Maybe she could be friends with your boys, if you like that storyline.
But ironically, it's Wanda and Vision who are the invaders. They spend all of the early episodes trying to hide their abilities from the town so they can fit in. The aliens spread their mind spores with walnuts, which Rob describes as
a thing about like the size of a grape.
All that crazy music for a grape?
Well, it wasn't really a grape, honey. It was a strange-looking object, and it gave off a glow.
Now this symbolizes the Mind Stone, encased in a gem, granting Wanda power that she then uses to take over the town. In the episode, the aliens gradually take over the cast of The Dick Van Dyke Show as events get more surreal, ending with a cascade of walnuts and a guest appearance by Danny Thomas. The episode ends with Rob waking up and realizing it was all a nightmare. Just as in WandaVision, events spin out of Wanda's control, and she's forced to wake up from her TV dream and free the people of Westview. The first episode is called Filmed in Front of a Live Studio Audience, because it was. This is both a throwback to the sitcoms that inspired Wanda, but also this invites the viewer into their home to become an active member of the story. Early sitcoms were filmed this way to emulate theater and vaudeville. The primary set of the episode is the home, because the home is the focus of Wanda's life, just as it was the focus of this era of sitcoms. The only other set we see is Vision's workplace, but this is only used to separate him from Wanda, to create a misunderstanding for the episode's plotline. In the same way, Wanda's focus is entirely on the Vision, his resurrection, and living their life together. All of her magic was filmed practically, with objects dangling from wires and camera tricks to show her changing clothes. This is reducing Wanda's godlike powers to small, easy-to-detect magic tricks. We can see how these tricks are done, so they're not impressive. Therefore, Wanda's abilities aren't a threat, they're fun. Because Wanda and Vision live an unimportant life, they won't be threatened by, say, purple aliens looking for jewelry. Their greatest traumas are reduced to jokes.
My husband and his indestructible head.
The early episodes center on the two of them hiding who they truly are, so they don't break the boundaries of this sitcom reality and revert back to real life. Episode 2 emulates the show Bewitched. That show follows a witch, Samantha, trying to live a normal life in the suburbs, all while keeping her abilities concealed. The sitcom is celebrated as a feminist narrative about a woman who holds all the power in the household while allowing her husband to think he actually wears the pants. Samantha could have been in charge of her home, but she chose not to. She wanted to conform to a suburban life just like Wanda. The cold open ends with the couple's twin beds being squished together to form one full bed. This is symbolic of TV's evolution. In the beginning of TV, couples were mostly portrayed in single twin beds, but in the 1960s, pioneering shows like The Brady Bunch or The Munsters made a single bed the norm. This reflected the reality of the 1960s. The counterculture was making sex a less taboo topic, and suddenly women on TV shows were allowed to sleep in the same beds as their husbands, or even show their pregnancies. But in WandaVision, the sexual revolution is slowly pulling Wanda out of the 1950s, forward through time to the era of her present-day trauma. The episode features 3 incursions on Wanda's world: the drone, the radio broadcast, and the sword agent. Each of these events is accompanied with a burst of red, warning Wanda of her true power and bringing her closer to the present day. The episode also reflects how 1960s sitcoms like The Andy Griffith Show began to film on larger outdoor sets to bring their characters outside the home. Wanda and Vision both join social clubs where they're subjected to peer pressure.
For the children.
For the children.
The community pressures Wanda into having children, just as society pressured young wives into starting a family. This kept women in the home and easier to control. In WandaVision, it's unclear if these are subliminal messages Wanda is making to herself, or if it's Agatha encouraging her to start a family. My personal opinion is that it was Agatha testing the limits of Wanda's powers, but let me know your theories down in the comments. The third episode is fully colorized, symbolizing that Wanda has now taken a giant leap into the future and closer to her real life. Episode 3 embraces family life by emulating the Brady Bunch. This show was defined by putting its focus squarely on the kids, their personalities, and their points of view.
Marsha! We're having pork chops and apple shots.
The episode also features a kitty carry-all doll. This is taken from the Brady Bunch episode that Wanda watched while in a Hydra cell. The episode is about Cindy's love for a doll, an inanimate object that her imagination gives life to, just like Wanda breathed life back into the Vision. In this episode, Wanda gives birth to twins at an inconvenient time, another wacky sitcom trope.
You are fully dilated to 10 centimeters. You may now give birth.
Seeing her children instinctually reminds Wanda of her childhood as she sings a song in her native language. This also weakens her spell on Monica, who suddenly remembers the outside world.
He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?
This is the moment when Wanda's spell begins to be broken and her life of denial starts to end. As we see in episode 4, this moves her into the next stage of grief: anger.
And I want you to leave.
After expelling Geraldine, she seems to come back to herself, realizing what she's done. Then her PTSD makes her see Vision as a lifeless husk. So she rationalizes that all of this is for the best, and she'll fight to keep this life intact. Episode 4 finally breaks from Wanda's point of view to show the viewer an objective view of what's going on inside Westview. In other words, we were part of the sitcom audience, and now we're part of WandaVision's audience. At the Sword Base, characters even talk about WandaVision like it's a TV show.
But I'm invested.
And they propagate their own fan theories, like scrolls or the meaning of hexagons. When Jimmy watches the show, it even makes him reflect on his own life.
Heck, I thought about it for sure. A little Jimmy woo, get him a tiny little FBI badge. Oh, you took a chip? Sure.
Now this isn't just a gag. This is how Wanda watched sitcom families and thought, I want that fantasy life for myself. This is also how society watches and consumes sitcoms, believing that the ideal homes presented in this pocket reality in our living rooms are something to strive for in real life. Darcy has always been an audience surrogate, presenting the cosmic events of Thor from a grounded point of view.
How's space?
Space is fine.
But now, she's literally the audience.
What I do know is I've been watching WandaVision for the past week, and the love you two have is real.
Episode 5 features the twins rapidly growing up and forcing Wanda to take on new responsibilities. Part of taking on new responsibilities means facing the consequences of what she's doing, as Vision becomes more suspicious.
Wonder why are there no other children in Westview?
It's titled A Very Special Episode. This is a trope where characters in the sitcom fantasy world briefly encountered real-life societal issues, like rape.
I thought he was gonna kill me.
Abortion.
When you were young, abortion was a dirty word. It's not anymore.
Eating disorders.
Deej, this kind of behavior can lead to serious eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia,
You're headed down a dangerous road here.
or death.
I'm joking. I'm sorry that this happened. He wouldn't dare die. Honey. No!
The episode is about the twins encountering death for the first time and Wanda helping them to cope with the loss.
We can't reverse death, no matter how sad it makes us.
But inadvertently, she's giving herself advice. As she says this, she's using her magic to avoid grief, even if she's not fully aware of her actions.
I don't know how any of this started in the first place.
The episode is most influenced by the sitcom Family Ties, a show loaded with very special episodes about Alzheimer's, alcoholism, death, heartbreak, and racism. Family Ties was perhaps most famous for making its parents former 60s activists, while the rebellious son was a Reagan Republican. This is an inversion of the young radical trope made famous in All in the Family.
I got a great idea. Why don't you hire one of Nixon's plumbers? Hey, they did a great...
In the same way, 80s sitcoms took on a fundamentally conservative point of view. Very special episodes were used to shape society's morality.
There's no such thing as soft drugs or hard drugs. All drugs are dumb.
But the episode also dives deep into Wanda's anger. She emerges from the hex to threaten Sword. She fights with the Vision.
I don't know what you're talking about!
Stop lying to me!
And she also stops trying to hide her powers.
You made no effort to conceal your abilities.
Well, I'm tired of hiding this.
This is because, as she's moving through the decades, she's arriving at the era where women were able to show more of how they felt, not just how society expected them to behave. Now, Agnes is the trope of the nosy neighbor next door, like Skippy, Eddie Haskell, Kimmy Gibbler, or Mrs. Kravitz on Bewitched. The nosy neighbor's job is to interfere, to disrupt the family life, to keep the show more interesting. They are never as happy or stable as the family unit. Like Urkel's parents don't even like him.
I'm being born. I can see my dad. Whoa, I'm being pushed back in.
Just as Urkel and J.J. Walker come to overshadow the families they visited and take over sitcoms, Agatha slowly disrupts and subverts the illusion that Wanda has created. She tries to expose Wanda's abilities at the magic show. She makes Wanda's kids grow up, and she kills their dog. But most importantly, she disrupts the home by bringing back Pietro.
Fietro, if you will.
A lot of fans didn't like the reveal that Pietro was just some guy and not Peter plucked out of the X-Men multiverse. But think about it. Agatha's goal was to make Wanda think that this could be Pietro.
I know I look different.
Why do you look different?
The casting is genius because it also makes the audience ask, well, wait, is this the new Pietro? Because he's played by the character in another franchise, fans were just as unsure as Wanda was. This was the only actor that they could have cast successfully in this role. And his name reveal,
Ralph Boner?
was a way of revealing that he's just another sitcom side character like Boner from Growing Pains.
His name was Boner.
The presence of Fietro brings Wanda into the next stage of grief, bargaining. The opening credits of episode 6 are, but if it's all illusion, just sit back and enjoy the show. In other words, accept what you're given even though it's not real. Wanda's decided that living with a Pietro is better than living with no Pietro at all. Fietro even calls out the illusion.
How'd you even do all this?
But rather than acknowledge she's living a lie, Wanda chooses to expand the hex and indulge her fantasies further. And she rationalizes that this existence is better for the people of Westview, a decision that's made clear in the finale.
You feel at peace.
This episode is in the style of Malcolm in the Middle, a show that embraced family dysfunction and economic struggles. Now, this rebellion against the standard morality of sitcoms began in the 1980s with shows like Roseanne and Married with Children. But Malcolm placed the emphasis on the kids, just as the twins are the only characters to direct address in this episode, like Malcolm does.
So basically, I think everything's gonna be okay.
This shows us that they are autonomous beings who exist outside of Wanda's control and, perhaps, could survive the collapse of the Hex. This is also the episode when Vision is separated from Wanda, and Agatha uses Fietro to replace him as the patriarchal figure.
Twins need a father figure for the night? Don't sweat it, sis. I got the old XY chromosome.
Again, she's bargaining, trading one father figure for another. In episode 8, we see Wanda and Vision bonding while watching an episode of Malcolm in the Middle called Health Insurance. In that episode, the dad, Hal, forgets to pay their family's health insurance. When he breaks his leg, he has to hide the injury from his wife, Lois. just as Wanda is hiding Vision's injuries from him to protect the illusion of their perfect life. Episode 7 is staged as a Modern Family-type mockumentary. Unlike other mockumentary shows like The Office or Parks and Recreation, Modern Family never shows you the film crew. They even film intimate moments between the characters, like when the Duffys role-play in a hotel.
Sir, there's no smoking in here.
Oh, that's fine. I'm not actually a smoker.
So Modern Family and this episode of WandaVision aren't true mockumentaries. They borrow tropes from that genre. The handheld camera movement makes the scenes feel more real to portray a modern family, and the direct address segments offer a glimpse into the characters' thoughts.
It's probably just a case of the Mondays. Am I right?
In this episode, Vision even breaks out of his direct address, and by extension, the TV structure that he's trapped within. Agatha also interrupts Wanda's thoughts with her own commentary.
I think I got there in the nick of time, because she was one split end away from cutting her own bangs.
This format is very reminiscent of reality TV, and again is moving Wanda closer to her own reality as well. Her clothes even closely match what she wore when she created Westview. Even the woman in the commercial is wearing similar clothes to Wanda when she suffers through depression. And that's because this episode is about the 4th stage of grieving, depression. Wanda begins to lose control. The way when you're depressed, you feel like you have no control over your own life, agency, or direction. She cuts people off.
Well, if he doesn't want to be here, there's nothing I can do about it.
And even pushes her sons away.
I'll be fine. Just go with Agnes.
Meanwhile, Monica's trips in and out of Wanda's fantasies have empowered her. Literally. She once again invades Wanda's home to deliver a dose of reality.
I can't control this pain anymore, and I don't think I want to. Because it's my truth.
This statement begins Wanda's transition into the final stage of grief, acceptance. Episode 8's title is Previously On. Wanda's trip down memory lane works as a therapy session, charting through her childhood and discovering elements of her past that she's blocked out, and even forming breakthroughs.
You're on the precipice. You are right there.
By the finale, Wanda has accepted her true identity as the Scarlet Witch. She has accepted what she did to the people in Westview.
I will let you go. I will.
And most importantly, she has accepted that Vision isn't real, and she has to live with her grief. Now, from her therapy session, she was reminded of these words.
But what is grief? If not love, persevering.
That give her the strength to carry on. This sentiment is echoed when the Visions talk about the ship of Theseus.
When no original plank remains, is it still the ship of Theseus?
The structure of the ship may change, but the idea remains forever. Just as Vision may change form, but Wanda will always love him.
I have been a voice with no body. A body but not human, and now a memory.
So when you think about this, gazing at the black mirror where WandaVision once delighted you ever so much, remember Wanda Maximoff. Her escape from reality led her down a therapeutic path to heal her psychic wounds. Maybe her escape and healing will inspire you to lead a better life, a life where you subscribe to this channel, click the bell for alerts, and leave me a comment or @ me on Twitter. It's the kind of life you deserve. Do it. Do it now. That's the point of WandaVision.